Hi everybody, I'm Andy Murray from WhatCulture.
And I am regrettably still not Simon Miller. Coming up for you today on the news, an update on Ronda Rousey's future with WWE, kind of.
Gonna tell you all the speculation on Goldberg's opponent for Saudi Arabia and who the current favourite is.
Wondering what Angel Garza is doing on Raw? We'll tell you.
And is Awesome Kong done with AEW? This is the news. We are not on the same page at all.
I wish he'd come back.
I wish he was back as well, man. Another week without him.
Is it another week?
Another week, baby.
So many podcasts.
We're going to kick things off with a little bit of chat about the news. The first story today is certainly news. So as announced on last night's episode of WWE Backstage, WWE have acquired two of the bigger names on the free agent market. We are talking about Killer Kross and Timothy Thatcher. This was announced by Ryan Satin on Backstage. It was then confirmed via a write-up on WWE.com. Couple of interesting signings here. Killer Kross has been in the works for a long time. The past few months have been filled with reports of meetings with Triple H, meetings with WWE, promises, fast-track pushes, maybe going straight to the main roster, all kinds of talk. But the former Impact man is finally there. It's a good fit. He's something like 6'5", 350 pounds. He's a big, beefy boy. He's bald as hell, which is always a plus in my book. He's got that intensity that WWE look for when they're pushing people as like big, scary, monstrous dudes and stuff. And also, he's going out with Scarlett Bordeaux. And they've done a double act before, so that's perfect because they can work together on WWE TV. And it'll be really good. One guy who's a slightly weirder fit is Timothy Thatcher. A renowned ring technician, a veteran, a former associate of Walter in Europe, in Progress, in WXW and elsewhere. Really ugly style professional wrestler. I love the guy, but his style is really hard-nosed and drag you to the mat and stretch the hell out of you and then bust you up with some elbows. It's going to be interesting to see how he fits in, for one would assume that he will potentially go into Imperium, as he's previously teamed with both Marcel Barthel and Walter as part of Ring Conf in Europe. Adam Cleary, couple of signings.
Yeah, big news this for fans of alliteration, first and foremost. Timothy Thatcher and Killer Kross both going to WWE. It's already been speculated on that they'll be heading directly to NXT, which is, of course, a brand that specialises in highly technically quality, intense wrestling. And these are two men who do high-quality, technical, intense wrestling. It feels like this is more and more. I know the Michaels have already discussed this on social media. Check them out if you get the chance. But could have maybe done with a bit more variety. I would love to see them not go to NXT. I would love to see them take a bit of a swerve here and maybe go directly to the main roster. Imagine Thatcher on the main roster, especially Killer Kross, who has been promised, we've been told, a killer push straight through WWE. He could go anywhere, conceivably.
Yeah. He could show up. Like, absolutely. You could put him on Raw or SmackDown immediately and he wouldn't look out of place. Thatcher is going to be so weird. I love the guy. I wish him the best. I hope he's getting paid. It's going to be interesting to see how he fits in, though. But, good for them. A guy like Thatcher, 36 years old, maybe looking at things like player coach roles. He was a coach for WXW and stuff. WWE can offer that long-term security even when he does transition away from the ring, although he's probably got a long time left.
I think if you're not familiar with him as well, I remember you yesterday going through those various images for the news piece. He was like, what should I go for here? One with his busted up face, one showing all his teeth, or just this one where he's smouldering. If you're not familiar with him, you're going to become very fast. Anyway, speaking of people who could appear literally anywhere at any time, Ronda Rousey. We've speculated a lot on her coming back to WWE. A lot of people assumed we would see her back in the Rumble. Hoped we would see her back in the Rumble leading up to a WrestleMania match with either Charlotte, with either Shayna, with either Becky. We don't mind. It would just be nice to get her back. Now, she's not so much as discussed when she'll be coming back on her own personal YouTube channel, but she has discussed how she might be coming back and what she would like to do if and when she did. On the Ronda Rousey YouTube channel, which is a thing, she was joined by Steve-O from Jackass.
Natural pairing.
Which was a thing, and they talked about many topics. I would encourage you to check it out, but I don't hate you personally. Anyway, talked about what she would do when she got back to WWE. She said she worked a pretty much full-time deal for them last time she was there, doing around 200 dates for the company, which you did a news story today. You looked at that, it was like 36 shows plus 90 whatever. A lot of it was personal appearances. She said she would never ever want to do that kind of full-time schedule. Again, partially because of the stress it puts on her family, partially because of the stress it puts on her body, partially because it's not very conducive to She still says she's trying to have a child. I don't know if that's still a thing or not, but it gets in the way of that certainly, so it's not something she would be looking to do. So, if she did come back to WWE, bear in mind she is still contracted through 2021, we believe, it would be part-time at best, occasional appearances. Andy Murray.
Yeah, we're going to get the Ronda Taker, aren't we, if she does come back? That's fine by me. I mean...
Never mind the Ronda Taker, Andy. What about Ronda Taker?
Oh, that's the WrestleMania match.
That's the WrestleMania match.
Book it, Vince, you sausage. Totally fine by me. I mean, Ronda Rousey is a prize fighter. Ronda Rousey is one of the biggest names in the company. I don't mind her only, if she does come back, her only showing up once or twice a year for a big fight. It'll feel more important. You think about professional boxing, for example. These guys are only showing up once or twice a year. Partly is because obviously their training is a lot different and strategizing is a lot more intense and all this other stuff. But it feels like a bigger fight as a result. It's not so special when you're seeing someone on your TV every other week or every single week. So I love Ronda Rousey. I thought her run was absolutely fantastic. I know there's a bit of fatigue towards her. I don't care. You're wrong. I would love to see her back, and I would love to see her in big matches, and I think this could be a good way to do it.
I absolutely loved Ronda's run. I mean, I think I go back to that first WrestleMania match when we're like, right, middle of the card, 10 minutes, just let Triple H and Kurt work it out that you can build a one spot with Ronda and Stephanie, then we'll see how it goes from there. And at the end of it, you were just sat there like, oh, so Ronda Rousey's the best wrestler on the planet then? That's interesting. I would love to see her back, even if it's just... If they're going to give an Undertaker role for occasional big appearances, not even necessarily every year, I think that's absolutely perfect. The women's division needs her at times. Like, it's felt quite lethargic in the months since she's been away. I know, like, there's been a lot of great moments in it, of course there has, but just that one shining light, and I think it makes everybody around her feel a bigger deal.
It takes stars to make stars. It needs a few new stars. Ronda's the one to make them. Speaking of people who are back, Goldberg, he's coming back. He's going to be there on Friday. Big fat Saudi Arabian paycheck is probably in his future. I made a whole video on who he might face in Saudi Arabia at Super Showdown yesterday. Check that out. We uploaded it. It's good stuff. I'm the man. I'm not really. Goldberg's the man. Dave Meltzer came through on Wrestling Observer Radio, spoke about potential opponents, and he said that he believes the only one that makes sense from a WWE perspective is Bray Wyatt, the Fiend, in Saudi Arabia. Now, I spoke a little bit about this yesterday, but I think if Goldberg's going to lose that match, that makes all the sense in the world. It's a big scalp for the Fiend to take. It's a huge name with a lot of stock, and it's someone that the crowd are definitely going to pop for because the Saudi Arabian crowds love stars from bygone eras. If Goldberg wins, that'd be some good banter, wouldn't it?
Sorry, you've absolutely rocked me with this because we did the podcast yesterday where the Michaels were discussing who the most obvious opponent for Goldberg's going to be. They said a handicap match with the Revival.
Yeah, I mean, that could also be a thing.
From there to the Fiend is quite literally the entire opposite end of the card. I don't know how I feel about that. They've not done like a big just roll over for one of our current guys match in the Saudi Arabian shows yet. So that would be a bit of a departure, wouldn't it?
It would be. I think it would be a welcome one. Like,
don't get me wrong, I would watch the hell out of that.
Yeah. Like, I love Bill Goldberg. I say this all the time. He's just a big, silly, smashing machine, and he seems like a really great guy to boot as well. I kind of want to see him like murder Baron Corbin in 30 seconds on the show, or spear Hulk Hogan out of his fake hip replacements. But that would be cruel. The Fiend probably works. It's a good person for Bray Wyatt to beat, although the Fiend losing the Universal title to Goldberg would be high banter.
See, what if we should have learned anything from these Saudi Arabian shows by now, and my friends, we should have learned a lot from these Saudi Arabian shows by now, is that when you try and take these returning star matches seriously, by either like putting them in the main event, putting them against another star, and trying to build it as a genuine piece of wrestling theatre, they do not work. When you treat it as a special guest appearance with something to pop the crowd in the middle of it, a la Dolph Ziggler, they work an absolute treat. And I would like to think WWE might be aware of that by now. Basically, when they've got literally the comparison of Goldberg versus The Undertaker, how did that go? Goldberg versus Dolph Ziggler, how did that go? They should be able to look at these two and go, well, which avenue do we go down now?
Yeah.
Is it the haunted forest with all the scary owls? Or is it the magical rainbow land with Dolph Ziggler in it? It's the magical rainbow land. Again, though, I'm saying this. Will I watch it? Yeah. Will I laugh all the way through it? Yeah. Will I really hope Matt Riddle tweets about it during? Yeah. That's all for that one. Angel Garza. Angel Garza was on Raw. this week, you may have noticed that he was filling in for Andrade. He was obviously suspended due to wellness policy violations. And we thought, with Rey Mysterio coming out and all being about Humberto Carrillo, there was a bit of talk that they were building this four-man sort of shared universe Mexican heritage storyline, which could, of course, lead into what would be a banging fatal four-way match at WrestleMania if they could get all of those elements to combine. But, my friends, here are your dreams. I have dashed them because Big Banter Uncle Dave Meltzer at the Wrestling Observer has said that Angel Garza was only there as a stopgap solution until Andrade returns from the wellness policy suspension thing. Which is a shame, because he's really good. Now, of course, we thought there's still so much for him to do on NXT. It was a bit of a, not a shame to see him on the main roster, but certainly there was unfinished business for him down there at NXT. So it might have been a case of be careful what you wish for in this scenario, but apparently he's just going to be there to sort of familiarise himself with the main roster, for the audience to familiarise themselves with him, but will be making way for Andrade when he returns. Now, yes, he is Humberto Carrillo's cousin. Yes, there was a storyline way to do it. But if Vince has just sat there and gone, what? Andrade's not here? Well, get me his non-working, his non-suspended Mexican equivalent.
Yeah.
Like, the guy there's a lot of shades of Andrade in his performance. Like, there's a lot of similar beats that the man goes through in the way he puts matches together. Hey, they even have a similar beaming smile, in my opinion, and they look equally as comfortable next to Zelina Vega, but maybe just not go for the next most Mexican man in the company.
Yeah,
maybe.
There's always that aspect to it, although I do think that they did quite a good job on Raw. Jerry Lawler in particular, which is mad for Jerry Lawler in 2020, of like, oh, he's Humberto's cousin and all this stuff.
Jerry Lawler had a good Raw as an aside, I thought.
It's strange. I don't understand it.
What's happening?
2020 is weird as hell. But like, I enjoyed seeing Garza on Raw. Sounds like he's going to be double dutying it, Raw, NXT for a few weeks. Let's enjoy it while he's here. And hey, maybe he'll be so goddamn good they have to bring him up. He's got personality. He's a good-looking boy. He can wrestle like hell. He
rips
off the pants
off,
just like his uncle and indeed Taichi. It's good stuff. I like it. See what happens.
I am disappointed if we're not going to get that fatal four-way match, because the moment it popped into my head, I now want that more than anything in the world. And if they're just going to sort of bring him in, let him do this really good job, and then bump him out, which is what's literally going to be, 6 weeks?
4 weeks, yeah.
Before WrestleMania?
Oh, sorry.
Something like that. Like, it's a bit of a shame. It's a bit of a shame. But whatever, life goes on.
Exactly. And speaking of life going on, forgotten my last story. This is the third goddamn day in a row. What is it? Can you remember? I can remember by doing this. Awesome Kong, of course. If you watched last night's episode of AEW Dark, you would have seen Mel of the Nightmare Collective lose to Hikaru Shida. Afterwards, Mel and Dr. Lufer turned on Awesome Kong, the Nightmare Collective, a fracture in that group. They beat her down, they left her for dirt, and then a bunch of officials had to show up and take Kong to the back. AEW tweeted after the show with the following: Awesome Kong medical update. On this week's episode of AEW Dark, Kong suffered serious injuries at the hands of Mel and Lufer. We do not know when or if she will return to action. So, interesting. The injury is obviously at work, right? But Kia Stevens is a very busy person who does acting and all kinds of other stuff. So, it kind of does make a bit of sense for her to maybe be taking some time off, maybe go away, maybe come back away from the Nightmare Collective. It's the Nightmare Collective, though, has just been this kind of widely criticized, failed stable from the get-go. It's been unfortunate that Kong has been kind of chained to that, because it hasn't really allowed her to gain any kind of momentum on the roster whatsoever. So this at least suggests that AEW have maybe gone, hey, this thing isn't working. Maybe we need to flip it up. Maybe we need to do something different. Okay, you, Kong, you're busy. Maybe just go away for a while, come back, figure it out. Could set up a potential feud with the remaining members of that group, but the remaining members of that group are Mel, Lufer, and Brandy. So I don't really know what's going on here. I hope the best for Kong Fu. She's a player coach at AEW. She's probably not done with the company completely. She is, by all accounts, one of the loveliest people walking the face of planet Earth as well, from everyone who speaks of her. So let's see what happens.
I'll just say it is a shame this, because obviously the Nightmare Collective has been one of the few bright spots on AEW over the last couple of years. Really well received, really transforming that women's division, getting rid of some of the criticisms it's had since its official launch. So yeah, obviously hope she can come back soon, hopefully gets back as part of that group, because I mean, to have the legs taken out from under them this early into what's been a spectacular run, I think we can all agree is a bit of a shame.
Twitter questions. First one today comes from Parth I'm terribly sorry, Parf. I'm going to butcher your last name. Safawane. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Who asks us, though Humberto and Mysterio are faces and Andrade and Garza are heels, but still all of them are on Raw, could this be the beginning of a Mexican faction that everyone has been asking for?
No. No, I don't think so. I don't think they've got any interest. In fact, you know what? I really hope it isn't, because if they do end up doing a Mexican faction, Vince will make sure that is written so they're all on like lowriders with bandanas and stuff, and like they just kick down walls because they're there for our goddamn jobs or something like that. It would be genuinely terrible and detract from what astounding wrestlers these four are. Possibly you could do some kind of tag team with the pair of them that would maybe negate the very obvious stereotypes that would go down. But I don't know. As I say, I want that fatal four-way match. I think there's enough in there. There's enough cross stories there with not enough quite to make up alliances for me. But we'll see what happens when Andrade gets back.
I think if you're looking at four wrestlers with Lucha Libre backgrounds, Vince would probably look at them and go, "Oh, pal, we'll just have a 7-man Lucha house party," and it would be something else.
What that Mexican stable have all been asking for. What's wrong with the one you've got? If you don't finish your main, you can't have your dessert.
That's how it works. That's a meal. I do think there could be potential money in some kind of link up between Garza and Andrade. Like Garza and Andrade are both handsome, cocky buggers. That would make sense. And you could throw Humberto in there as the cousin, of course, of Garza. Maybe they could figure something out to that end. Ray's an interesting one. I've loved his comeback run so far. I don't think we'll get a faction, but there are elements of it at least that could work.
I don't think I've ever seen a WWE faction of 4 people where the leader of the group is also the smallest.
Strange, isn't it?
No, I've ever seen that. Maybe DX when Hornswoggle was in it, but that's
yeah, the true leader of DX, Hornswoggle. Friend of the channel, Hornswoggle. Another one here, second one from Richard Corey Breeze, who says, "It's my birthday! Hey! Happy birthday, Richard." Wants to ask, do you think that Roman Reigns will be entered into the Elimination Chamber and at what point in the match to give him a chance to face the Fiend at WrestleMania?
I think all the reports have heard that that's the match they're going to go down with WrestleMania, isn't it? It seems to make the most logical sense. Michael Hamflett was explaining to me the logic of, in the build-up to WrestleMania, you do the number 1 face versus the number 2 heel, and the number 2 face versus the number 1 heel, and then you swap them around in April. And it looks for all the world right now that the number 1 face on SmackDown, who's just won his big old dog food feud, is the big dog. Remember, he's a dog. Roman Reigns, and I don't really get how you get to that WrestleMania match if you're not going through the Elimination Chamber, so I think he's almost as close to a dead cert to win that as you could possibly be, unless of course all these reports are wrong, we get a nice big swerve, or they just try and do something more interesting.
Or Goldberg wins it, because why the hell not? Anyway, thanks for joining us today. You can follow us on Twitter at WhatCulture.
The spear versus the spear.
Imagine them spearing
into each other. That's how WrestleMania ends.
Double concussion, baby!
Split the atom.
Oh my goodness, the world is over. Black hole and stuff. Thanks for joining us. You can follow us on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. Use the hashtag #ThisIsTheNews to send us your Twitter questions. Might be back in the afternoon, might be back tomorrow. You never know how the content's gonna go. You can follow Adam Cleary on Twitter at
Adam Cleary, CLERY.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Andy H. Murray. The H stands for Helter Skelter. And yes, I am running out of ideas for this gimmick. Goodbye.
Humberto.